Hey folks, welcome back. This is Chris in England. Listen, this is not an accusatory video. This is not a panic video. This is not meant to get people all wound up. However, I cannot continue to ignore anecdotal evidence of things that are a little bit concerning. Specifically, it was one or two people initially. Now it's been several people who've written to me, and I have to take them at their word, that after having spoken to RSC, the Kenyans who are doing screening for the refugee resettlement program for people suffering from unjust racial discrimination, resettling in the United States, that they've been told that they're not taking any questions about legitimate concerns or fears of future persecution. And they're being told that you have to prove that you're a past victim of persecution. Well, that can't possibly be true. I'm not saying that that isn't happening on an individual basis, but the law is clear. And even if the law wasn't clear, the U.S. Embassy website is very clear. You must be able to articulate, not prove, articulate, which means to explain. Articulate a past instance or past instances of clear racial discrimination that's unjust, or a legitimate fear of future persecution. U.S. Immigration Nationality Act of 1980 is very explicit, very clear in this. And the refugee status by President Trump is being granted to South Africans who are racial minorities on that basis. So if in fact you have been told by RSC or by someone else that you can't qualify because they don't care about future concerns, you must prove that you've been a victim, that is illegal and wrong. And I don't know why that's happening, if it is actually happening, but after one or two, you think maybe somebody misunderstood in the conversation, 3 or 4, somebody misunderstood. But when I get a few dozen complaints over the course of 2 weeks or so, it begins to raise questions. So this video is meant to get the attention of U.S. Refugee Assistance Program, USCIS, Department of Homeland Security, the American Embassy in South Africa, and the Trump administration. I don't know who's providing oversight to Church World Services and RSC. Perhaps you want to take a closer look at what's happening there. Again, I'm not accusing the Kenyans of anything. I know that many people, dozens, if not a couple hundred people, have already contacted me and said that the Kenyans were very professional, very respectful, very understanding, and very empathetic, and moved their case along in a couple hundred cases of people that have contacted me. So I don't want to disparage people without evidence. But this is such a fast-moving ship and such a critically important issue, and lives are on the line, that I feel it necessary at this stage to make this video to send a word of caution out, or a concern that someone in authority in the U.S. government should pay close attention to this and take a look at this. We cannot have people making decisions who are not authorized to make decisions. Again, I'm not making that claim, but there are enough anecdotal cases that it warrants someone to take a closer look. If this has happened to you and you have not contacted me, I encourage you to contact me at the allaboutafrica2021@gmail.com email to let me know about it. All right? That way I'll have more anecdotal evidence in case the U.S. government actually listens to my plea or my call for them to take a look at this. All right? So again, not to panic, not to accuse anybody, not stating it's true, but at some point, when so many people have contacted you and said, hey, listen, I was told they don't care about future persecution. I got to prove that I was persecuted. Also, for those submitting online statements that are now being done, like with the Americaners and others, make sure you're writing this properly. Understand that if you're explaining a past case of persecution, you need to convey to the people reading this, since you're not in person, they can't see the emotion, the fear on your face, in your heart. All you have is written word. You must convey that your life is on the line if you want someone to take that seriously. You can't be blasé about it. You've got to put a serious case forward. You've got to say, listen, this happened, and this is the consequence of it. This is what happened to us. Otherwise, you risk not being accepted. Now, I don't know of anyone who's been disapproved for the program thus far, but I'm sure at some point people will be disapproved. And perhaps some have already been disapproved. They just don't know that. I don't know. But the bottom line here, folks, if you want to participate in this program, and once again, let me be very clear, as I've been since February 7th, I don't encourage anybody in South Africa to leave the country. I don't encourage you to become someone who participates in this program. I also do not discourage you. That's not my role. My role here is to be honest, objective, forthright, delivering cogent, lucid analysis of what's going on. And from my standpoint right now, I'm a little bit concerned about all these messages I'm getting about people being said, we don't care about future persecution and concerns. That doesn't matter. You have to prove that you've been persecuted. That is not what the law says. That is not what the law says. And that is also not what the U.S. Embassy website says. So if that's happened to you, it's wrong. If you inferred incorrectly, well, that doesn't make it wrong. Maybe you misunderstood. Hopefully we'll find out. All right, folks, what say you? Hang in there. Wow, the refugee thing has eaten up a lot of my time this week. From England, cheers. God bless.